When you've been married to someone for 9 years, you think you know their patterns, their favorite diner order, the sound of their walk up the stairs, the way they always fall asleep 5 minutes into a movie they insisted on watching. You learn their habits so well, any small change sets off quiet alarms in your brain. That's what happened with Daniel. It started with little things, more phone calls in the other room, more business trips popping up with zero warning. But the first real red flag came 2 months ago, on a Thursday night, when he dropped a casual bomb over dinner. I'm heading out of town this weekend, last-minute retreat with a few guys from work. No details, no invitation, just a statement. Daniel worked in commercial real estate, not exactly the kind of job that screams corporate bonding in the woods. "Where's the retreat?" I asked, stabbing my salad with more force than necessary. "Upstate, near Lake Weller, I think." I nodded slowly. "Never heard of it." "It's quiet, off the grid. Kind of the point." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. That Friday, he packed light. One duffel bag, hiking boots he hadn't touched in a year. No laptop, no charger, just the bare essentials, and something in his posture that made my stomach twist. He kissed me goodbye like everything was fine, said he'd be back Sunday evening. "I'll call when I can," he added. "Cell service is spotty." Then he was gone. And the second the taillights disappeared down our street, I knew I wasn't going to spend the weekend sitting around waiting for that call. I didn't make some elaborate plan. I just packed a bag, grabbed a full tank of gas, and waited 20 minutes before heading out behind him. Daniel thought I didn't know what car his coworker Greg drove, but I'd seen them have lunch before, at a cafe 2 blocks from our house. And Greg's bright red Ford Edge was hard to miss. So when Daniel left for the retreat, I waited down the street. And sure enough, he pulled into a gas station just outside the neighborhood and climbed into Greg's car. Hiking weekend, my ass. I started following them. We drove for nearly 3 hours. They took the highway north, through farmland, up twisting roads, and past small towns I'd never heard of. I kept my distance, switching lanes every so often, careful not to get too close. Eventually, they turned off onto a narrow side road near the edge of a wooded area, not Lake Weller. There were no cabins, no signs of a company retreat, just open countryside and, finally, a row of small, modest houses along a private gravel road. They pulled into the driveway of a pale blue house with white shutters. It was cute, quiet, and completely unfamiliar. I parked 2 houses down and waited, half expecting to see other coworkers pile out of the car, but no one did, just Daniel. And then, a minute later, the front door opened, and she stepped out. A woman, mid-30s, brunette, wearing a cozy cream-colored sweater and leggings. She smiled when she saw him, really smiled, the kind of smile that comes with familiarity, comfort, expectation, and my husband smiled back. She wrapped her arms around him like it was the most natural thing in the world. Then they kissed. Not a friendly peck, not an awkward hug. A real kiss, like I didn't exist, like our house, our life, our vows were nothing but wallpaper to tear down. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I didn't get out of the car, didn't storm over. I just sat there, frozen, as the front door closed behind them. And then I realized he wasn't on a retreat. He was coming home to someone else. I don't remember the drive back. I got home around midnight, parked in our driveway, like I hadn't just watched my husband kiss another woman 3 hours away. Riley, our lab mix, came to the door, wagging his tail like it was any other night. The house was quiet, still, perfectly normal, which made it worse. I stood in the kitchen for a long time, my bag still slung over one shoulder, just staring at the floor tiles. They were the same ones Daniel and I picked out together 6 years ago during the kitchen remodel. He wanted gray, I wanted ivory. We compromised on both. That was us, always compromising, always working through things, always choosing the responsible option. And I'd convinced myself that made us strong. But apparently, while I was busy being stable, Daniel was busy being elsewhere. I slept on the couch that night, not because I had to, but because I couldn't bear the thought of laying in our bed, in sheets he'd been lying to me in. The next morning, I did something I never thought I'd do. I checked his emails. He'd left his laptop on the dining table, open, logged in, like he had nothing to hide, like he trusted me so much. It didn't even occur to him I might finally stop trusting him. There wasn't anything obvious. No I love you emails, no weekend plans with names, Just work correspondence, calendar invites, and a few bank notifications. But I kept digging. I found a digital receipt from a flower shop in Greenville, dated 2 weeks ago. Thank you for your order, 12 white lilies. Note attached. Can't wait to see you again. Same place soon. Day. I had never received white lilies from him in my life. By Sunday evening, when Daniel walked through the front door, he smelled like cedarwood and fresh air and nothing at all like guilt. He dropped his duffel bag by the entryway and smiled. Hey babe, miss me? I looked up from the book I wasn't reading and forced a smile. My heart was pounding so hard I thought he might hear it. How was the retreat? I asked, casual even. He launched into some made-up story about a campfire, team building, no cell signal, and how Greg nearly fell in the lake trying to catch a fish with his hands. I nodded along, every word washing over me like static. Then I asked, "Who's the woman in the blue house?" His face changed instantly. It was like watching a glitch. His expression stuttered, paused, tried to catch up with reality. I don't know what you mean. I followed you, I said. Friday. I watched you get in Greg's car. I watched you pull up to that house. I saw you kiss her. His mouth opened, then closed. I stood up. No lies. I don't want a story. I want the truth. Silence. Then he sat down, hard, like someone had taken the air out of him. I was going to end it, he said. I laughed. Were you? He nodded slowly. I swear, I didn't mean for it to go on this long. It started last year. I was in Greenville for work. She worked at the hotel. We talked. That's all at first. Then you kissed her, I finished. Like you meant it. Daniel rubbed his face. I didn't want to hurt you. That's the thing about hurting people, I said. You still do it, even when you don't want to. Over the next hour, the whole story came out. Her name was Emily. She was divorced, had a 7-year-old daughter. He'd been seeing her once a month, sometimes more, usually under the guise of business. He told her I was separated from him, told her we lived apart. He didn't just cheat on me. He built a whole alternate life. When I asked him why, he just said, I felt invisible. I felt like I didn't matter anymore. That's when I realized something that stopped me cold. He didn't do this because of her. He did this because of him. His ego, his emptiness, his inability to sit with boredom or commitment, or the idea that a real relationship takes work even when it isn't exciting. He had everything, and he still wanted more. I'm going to stay at Greg's for a few days, he said, after packing a bag. To give you space. I nodded. Don't forget the flowers next time. He froze. I held up my phone. I saw the receipt. He looked at me like I'd shot him. I didn't care. The house was so quiet after he left, it felt like it didn't belong to me anymore. For days, I moved through it like a guest, feeding Riley, going through the motions of work, folding laundry with the TV on just to hear another voice in the room. But even the dog seemed confused. He kept sitting by the door around 6 p.m., waiting for the man who used to toss him a treat and complain about traffic. I didn't tell anyone right away. Not my sister, not my friends. I wasn't ready for the questions or the pity. I needed to process it on my own to figure out if this was a temporary disaster or the end of everything. The answer came on a Wednesday. Daniel called. I let it ring, but he left a voicemail. His voice was calm, measured, too rehearsed, like he'd practiced it in the mirror a few times before dialing. Hey, I've been thinking. I know I messed up, but I really believe we can get through this. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Counseling, therapy, complete honesty. I miss you. Please call me. I didn't call him. Instead, I called Emily. I'd found her number on the flower shop receipt. He'd listed it as the contact for delivery. I had no idea what I was going to say. I just knew I couldn't move forward without answers from someone outside his orbit of manipulation. She picked up after 2 rings. Hello? Hi, I said. Is this Emily McKee? Yeah. Who's this? I took a breath. My name is Rachel Carter. I think we need to talk about Daniel. There was a long pause. Then, oh my God. Her voice cracked. I could tell she already knew. We met the next day at a diner halfway between her place and mine. I recognized her the second she walked in. Brown hair pulled into a bun, sunglasses perched on her head, the kind of woman who'd make conversation with strangers at the checkout line. She slid into the booth and looked at me like I was a mirror she didn't want to look into. I didn't know he was married, she said right away. I swear. I believed her. He told me you were separated. Said it was ugly and slow and that he was trying to keep the peace for legal reasons. I nodded. That sounds like him. He even showed me an apartment listing once, said he was about to sign a lease. Jesus, I muttered. He really built the whole fantasy. Emily rubbed her eyes. I feel sick. Me too. We sat in silence for a few minutes, both of us absorbing the weight of what he'd done. 2 lives, 2 stories, and no intention of ever coming clean. I wondered how long it would have gone on if I hadn't followed him that night. A year? 2? Would he have ever left me? Or would he have just kept both women on a rotation like it was normal? He loves control, I said finally. He's the kind of guy who smiles while everything burns, as long as no one sees the flames. She nodded. I ended it, she said. Right after you called, I told him never to contact me again. Good, I said. That makes 2 of us. Back at home, I started taking down the pieces of our life. Photos, framed anniversary cards, the postcard from our honeymoon in Vermont that hung above the coffee maker. I didn't burn them. I didn't throw them in a dramatic pile. I just packed them into a box and shoved it into the back of the closet. Gone, but not forgotten. That weekend, I changed the locks. Then I did something that felt stupid at first, but turned out to be exactly what I needed. I booked a solo Airbnb in the Blue Ridge Mountains. I brought books, wine, hiking boots, and no agenda. Just me. It was the first time in years I went somewhere without checking in, making sure someone else was comfortable, or adjusting my plans to fit theirs. I stood on the back deck of the cabin that first morning, holding a mug of coffee, staring out at the fog rolling over the hills, and I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Relief. Daniel texted me again a few weeks later. This time, he didn't ask for another chance. He just said, I hope you're okay. I didn't reply, because I was okay, and for the first time in a long time, I wasn't lying to myself about it. It's strange how quickly a life can come undone, and how quietly it can be rebuilt. After that trip to the mountains, something in me shifted. I didn't come back with all the answers or some magical sense of closure. I didn't meditate on a rock and suddenly forgive him. But I came back clear. I knew who I was again. Not Rachel the wife. Not Rachel the woman he lied to. Just me. And that was enough. A month passed, then 2. I filed for separation. Daniel didn't contest it. Maybe he was too ashamed, or maybe he was just ready to move on. Either way, I didn't need a courtroom showdown. I just needed out. Our mutual friends, those couples we used to go on double dates with, the ones who never asked too many questions, started noticing the distance. The ones who reached out got the truth. Not the whole messy saga, but enough. He wasn't who I thought he was, and I'm doing better now. The rest? I let them speculate. I learned I didn't owe anyone my pain. Then came the part I didn't expect. Emily reached out again. She'd started seeing a therapist, she said. She was trying to process the fact that she'd loved a man who belonged to someone else, and didn't know it until it was too late. We started talking more often, not in a strange, trauma-bonded way, but with a kind of mutual understanding. We were 2 women who had both been played by the same man, yes, but we were also 2 women who had chosen to walk away, and there was something powerful in that. One day she told me, I keep thinking about how he had both of us, and how we both gave him the benefit of the doubt, over and over. It's like we were trained to. I nodded. We were trained to be easy to forgive, not easy to respect. 6 months later, the house was officially mine. I painted the bedroom, bought new sheets, changed the art on the walls. Not because I was trying to erase everything, but because I didn't want to keep sleeping in the version of life he'd built for me. And the biggest surprise of all, I didn't feel bitter anymore. Just done. The last time I saw Daniel was by accident. It was at the grocery store. I turned the corner near the dairy aisle, and there he was, standing in front of the yogurt case like it was a crossword puzzle. Our eyes met. I think he actually flinched. Hey, he said, voice small. Hey. He looked older, not tired, just dulled, like he was carrying more weight than he used to. You look good, he added. Thanks, I said. You look fine. We stood there for a second. Then he cleared his throat. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. For all of it. I know, I said. You already did. He nodded. And that was it. No dramatic scene. No apology that healed the wound. Just 2 people who had shared a life, now standing between butter and cheese, with nothing left to say. These days, I'm building a life that doesn't revolve around anyone else's lies. I adopted another dog. Riley needed a friend. I started volunteering at a community center, teaching creative writing. I don't always talk about what happened, but when I do, I say it like this. I loved someone who wasn't honest, and then I learned how to love myself more than I feared being alone. And people nod. Because they get it. Because the story isn't unique. But the healing, that part's mine.